Hey guys, I hope you're doing well. This video is going to touch on certain parts of the calibration process where I tend to get most of my questions, right? And just to refresh here, I'm not going to be going through each step by step on this video, right? You can get my customized instructions at www.whoismostmacho.com. Obviously, I asked for a donation to help the pups out, my local animal shelter. Okay, so let's get into it. Real quick, let's address some common misconceptions. Obviously, the water holder plastic piece is taken off, right? So this is, you have full access to the front. This is obviously the flywheel, right? Nothing special. And then you have the two orange brackets. Each bracket on each side has 3 magnets, right? For terminology, I'm going to call the most forward facing magnet the first magnet. The second magnet obviously is in the middle, and the third is in the back. Okay. Misconception. Some people think that the brackets move inward like this and away, meaning the closer the magnets get to the flywheel, the more friction it takes to move the crank. The farther away, the less friction. That's not how the brackets work. The concept, though, is correct, meaning the closer the magnets, the harder. But just keep in mind that, right, the dial here actually moves the brackets up and down. So the farther up, which would be the dial is all the way counterclockwise, would be like a 0 resistance, and then obviously turning it all the way clockwise would get you the most. Okay. One thing I will bring up though, and this video is pretty much straight on. I try to do as good as possible, but unfortunately, the number one thing I get from a lot of you guys is, "Hey, my brackets look bent," and yes, that seems to be a big issue. And unfortunately, I can't do anything about that. You'd have to have a Peloton rep come out. And what do I mean by that? So you got the magnet here in the front and the magnet here on the front. The distance between the magnets from a right to left, right, as it goes down on the flywheel should be uniform. The distance on this side should be the same as the distance. Unfortunately, right, and I feel bad for some of you guys, I've seen some that are dramatically off, right? So this side could be a good ½ inch away while this is close. Maybe they're both way far apart, but one is, farther apart than the other. There's just nothing I can do to help you, and you're just going to have a bike that cannot be calibrated until you get those brackets fixed. Okay, so let's touch on real quick the use of the wedge. Again, this is the wedge that you get from Peloton. They should send it to you for free. It should be pretty self-explanatory, right? But this is the wedge, here's the flywheel, and it just sits on the flywheel, right? And when you get the instructions and you go through it, basically what you have to do is it's asking you to open up, right, the bracket until it slides in with a little resistance, tiny bit, right? So it should be a little friction on the wedge as you move it, and then it's going to stop and it's going to seat, if you will, against that second magnet. Okay? Pretty simple. What ends up happening though, a lot of people, they overdo it. I get a lot of questions about how tight should I tighten it? Should I really crunch it down there? Is that going to affect? No. And, I hope that's not how maybe some of these people have messed their bikes up, but it's barely any friction to push in where it stops and barely out. Okay. And now you're ready to start. It'll make a little more sense when you actually have my step-for-step instructions, but that's what that means. Just a little right here. Okay? Thanks. Hey guys, I hope you're doing well. This is the second part to my video where I'm going to walk you through probably the second of the 2 key points of calibrating the bike per the instructions, right? So one is having to do with the flywheel. You've already seen that piece. The second is how do you set up the rotation knob and, when they're asking you certain questions and to do things. And really that has to do with, I brought it up before, what I'd call the 2 discs, right? So these 2 pieces along with the wedge you'd get from Peloton, they should send them to you for free. So this is the smaller disc right here in my right hand, and the larger disc is the bottom. So people get a little confused here, right? So here's your dial, and you can see that there's a bolt here, and I'm not sure if it comes up very well, but the bolt's round and then it has a flat edge, right? Round and it has a flat edge. So what you want to do is to get these discs on, you see this sleeve here, so it's black. It looks like it's solid, but it's not. It's black, and you want to move it, and you need to slide it up into the base of the knob. You want to take the larger disc, and that goes on to the knob. You can let the black piece drop down, And then you want to turn this piece until it seats. Okay, I'm going to do that again. It can spin until it seats itself on the flat part, right? And so now that disc is locked. It does not spin, okay? Now you've got the small disc. Hopefully this shows up. In my instructions, right, I tell you to mark one of the ridges, there's 4 ridges there, black. And that's gonna help you out during the process to easily see what you're doing. So you're going to want to raise again like you did before to get that big disc in. You're gonna take the smaller disc and you're gonna push it on. Now, the smaller disc fits onto the basically the base of the handle by friction, right? So it's a little bit smaller than the diameter of the post, so you need to push it on, and you'll hear a click. Boom. Right, now it's clicked. Now essentially what you do is if you turn the knob, you'll see that the top disc spins, while the second disc, which is seated on the flat part of the bolt, stays still. The big disc has 4 markings on it. The top disc has 4 markings. On the top disc, you've marked it partly black, and essentially you're gonna turn during the instructions each quarter of a turn, right? So that's why the discs have ridges, because the calibration program asks you to turn a quarter turn, a quarter turn, a quarter turn. It'll make more sense when you actually look at the PDF, but just keep that in mind, okay? Take care. Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Third part of my video. So I've kind of walked through how to use the wedge during the calibration process. I've also talked about using the discs and some challenges that people have, at least as far as trying to see how they work, and I've walked you through that. So there's a couple other things, and these are just one-offs, but people are tending to come to me with them a lot more often lately. So one is there's a section in the instructions where you need to bring up the about box on your bike, and that's how you actually enter the calibration program on the Peloton bike. So people are getting confused. They're saying that the box is coming up, or my bike doesn't have the ability to run the calibration program anymore. I tap on the box, it goes away. Real simply put is that you're not tapping in the right area. You got to be very, very perfect, if you will, on where you tap on the screen. Otherwise, the about box goes away. You can't get into the calibration process, and then you walk away frustrated. So again, tie back to the instructions, hit the about box, the box pops up, and what a lot of people will do is the instructions say to rapidly hit up in the upper right hand corner of the pop-up box to get in the calibration program. Well, what some people do is they'll come over here and they'll tap it. They'll be like, wait a second, that just went away, right? Do it again. They'll come here and they'll be like, oh, it's not working. No, it's working. You just have to be super perfect about it as far as where you tap. So you need to definitely do it in the upper right-hand most part of the box, okay? And I'll show you that it works if you do it right. Boom. Right, there's the calibration screen. Okay? A couple other things. I get a ton of questions about how far do I turn the knob? Can I keep turning it harder? I feel some resistance, but I can turn it more. No, please don't, okay? So look, I'm gonna turn it clockwise. Okay, that is all the way right. Boom. Don't grab it, don't turn it, don't force it. That's not what it's asking you to do, okay? Same concept for when you go all the way to no resistance. Turn it with your hands, and once you can't easily just stop it, that's all the way left, right? No need to force it or jam it or turn it one way or another. All the way right, all the way left is fine, okay? The other question I get a lot of is, hey, when I ride my bike and I have absolutely no resistance on, so all the way left, I can turn 1, 2, or 3 times and the output on the screen doesn't change. That is correct, okay? Turning the dial all the way to the left does not mean that your bike is at 0, okay? It's gonna show 0. What I'm saying is you can turn it a few times. Some of you guys will be 1 turn, 1.5, some will be 2, whatever, but that doesn't mean that it won't come off of 0. So the bike could still be at 0. Little more turn, and then you'll start to see the output go up, okay? Now, that's the same thing for max, right? So if you're all the way clockwise, okay, and you're riding, and the bike's max resistance is at 100, you'll be able to turn a few turns counterclockwise, and 100 will still say on the screen, right? It won't move. Maybe 1.5, maybe 2, maybe 2.5, but you'll turn the dial, and then you'll start to see 100 go to 99, 95, etc. Okay? Hope that helps you out. Take care.